Welcome, 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 man. We're so happy you guys are tuned in once again right here to the 116 Live, right here on Sirius XM Channel 140 on Holy Culture Radio. Man, we have a great show carved out for you. As you already know, I am your host, Meah Evans.
I'm here, Ace Harris, and we got a amazing guest, a savant, a culture maker,
the one and only,
orator. We can just keep going with the.
We really can. No, we really can.
Author, speaker,
storyteller,
influencer.
Yes.
Okay, he's like, yo, can y'all please stop? The one and only.
Any more hyphens?
John Onwuchekwa. John O. What's up, man?
Yes,
What's
sir.
up, man? Yeah, glad to be here, man.
Good to have you, man.
Yeah.
We obviously go. I would say about 4 or 5 years back. I feel like I've known you all my life, man. Me, and this guy can hoop too. I ain't gonna lie. I met him playing basketball.
Playing ball. Those are the days,
man.
bro. Pre-COVID.
I know. 6 in the morning.
I know.
6 in the morning.
Every Tuesday and Thursday it would be me and Ace and probably like 13 other guys.
John, you nice.
Oh,
no, he nice.
That's what I.
Nice.
What I do. Okay, so it's like, if you've been to the church, heard me like preach, you read the book and you heard me speaking. It's like, that's. I don't know.
So,
basketball's what I do.
So, how I met John? Obviously, this is him in the flesh. I was invited to play ball with some guys that go to the church that he was a member of and a pastor at the time, and I had heard about Cornerstone obviously through the people that I know, Trip, but I never knew who the pastor was. So John's out there giving people buckets, bro, like
breaking ankles,
killing it.
A little bit. I'm a lefty shooter,
oh,
so
man.
I got
you a lefty?
Lefty.
Oh,
so
that's
the
crazy.
jump is nice.
But one thing I will say, what stood out so basketball brings out the best in us and sometimes the worst in us, especially for my Christian folk.
The basketball demons come out, bro. The basketball
So
demons
let's just
come
say
out.
there were some people who may not have been the most enjoyable to play with.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But when you got on John O's team, whether you were a person who played or you were just okay, he always found his team would win a lot because he was essentially like a point guard and amplifying the team, making people better. And I was like, I like this guy. And then I found out after a couple games, oh, that's the pastor?
Right.
Oh, it makes sense. This is the guy who he's giving people buckets now. So he's not like trying to like go easy on you,
Right.
but he was a leader in how he like led the team. So it was fun, yeah.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So that was 5 years.
Dang.
5 years ago, bro.
Dang.
We started in like 2018 and had a good 2-year run every Tuesday and Thursday morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good times.
When was the last time you had the chance to hoop?
Oh, I mean, this past week.
Oh,
My man's got a basketball in the car.
I was
still
shooting this
play.
morning at 6 a.m.
No, I got
in the rain.
No, I got 2 pairs of shoes and a basketball in the trunk right now.
Oh, you one of them.
Whenever we want to do it, we can do it. Whenever you're ready.
John's definitely that guy.
Man, listen, I'm just a water girl.
Fun.
You know what I'm saying? I give y'all water whenever y'all need it. Y'all guys who are on the bench. Listen, John, we're so happy to have you on the show. Now, for those of you, for those who don't know you, just take a little bit to talk about who you are, where you're from, and all that you do.
Yeah, I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I'm the son to Nigerian parents, third of 5 kids. I pastored for 16 years, so from 22 to 38 years old, I served as a pastor. So this is my 11th month as an adult, not as a pastor, right? Wow. So it's like, that's what my life has been. There's a bunch of things I think that can describe me. The most important thing, husband to my wife of 16 years, Chandra, dad to Ava. She's 6.5 years old. But whenever anybody asks me what I do, I just kind of lead to my mission statement for my life. And it's what I do is I try my best to bring beautiful things into the world by building the greatest teams on the planet. So what I do in all of my life is I just see a problem, and I usually don't think about how the problem can be solved. When I see it, I think of, all right, who do I know that can be a part of the solution? And then I bring them in. And so that's how, the church started. That's how coffee started. That's how the book started. That's how the, tour started. The, music with Swoop, the on and on and on. I just spend my life building teams that solve problems and bring beautiful things into the world. So
yeah, I mean, how does it feel? First of all, that's awesome. How does it feel not being pigeonholed into like a title? Because I think people who do a lot of different things well, sometimes it's complicated to say. It's like what am I? What do I do? How does it feel to not be so defined and kind of be like a man of many like gifts in that way? You know what I'm
saying? Yeah. So it's I started leading this cohort about a year ago of storytellers, right? And one of the things that we did at the start is the very first day, sit down with a group, 20 people, and I say, all right, listen, y'all are gonna introduce yourself to the group, but I don't care what you do. Nobody else in the world really cares what you do. Any party that you go to,
right?
People are going to ask you your name first, and the very next thing they're going to ask you what you do.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't care what you do. What's more important to me is why you do what you do.
That's good.
And I feel like that's a more compelling story. That's a thing that leads you to connect with people on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So even my life post-pastor, people used to say, what do you do? I'm a pastor. And then you're at the mercy of whatever framework they have in their mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't ask any more questions.
It's like, I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, put the joint away, you know what I'm saying?
Put the, bag
turn the rap music down.
Turn the music down.
It's like,
but it's like, no. Why do you do what you do?
I think that's good.
And so, so for me, it's like, it's special because it's like, what do I do? When folks ask, it's like, I create resources, I travel, I speak, I am a co-owner of a business, I train and mentor folks, I tell stories, and it's just all of these hyphens, and it just turns into a bunch of adjectives and nouns that really have no meaning, right? But why I do what I do is this, because at the lowest point in my life, right, 8.5 years ago when my brother died, at the lowest point in my life, I was my absolute loneliest. And it was like being depressed after a death like that is one of the most harrowing experiences that anybody can go through. And like coming out on the other side because of the people that were in my life. Like I do what I do because I learned tragedy doesn't ruin anybody. Hopelessness does. And I just want to help people hold on to hope however they can. So that's the common thread, whether I'm telling stories, speaking at a church, ideating on coffee as a platform to do good, writing books, whatever I do it so that I can help people hold on to hope.
That's amazing.
I just want to preface people right now. Throughout this entire show, you're going to hear a lot of, that's good.
Pretty much.
Only because John, you just have a way with communicating and a way with talking to people. And one of the things I truly admire about you is that you have, I don't know how, found a way to speak so eloquently and encouraging to people specifically about the topic of grief. And I just found a topic that's so sensitive and so touchy for some people, but you go in head on and people are you travel around with this topic. What moved you to want to be able to talk to people about grief and encourage them through that journey?
Feeling like when I went through my own journey, right, I was at the lowest part of my life, but I was the loneliest. People would say things, but it's like none of the things that they said really like helped. And I think one of the most depressing realities hit me. I remember this was we talked about it some. A year after my brother died, I thought that I was okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm good. Like, all right. Yeah. Move past my grief. Things are great. And I found myself in the parking lot of Lenox Mall waiting on a parking spot. I'm okay though. I'm good. A parking spot comes up and a group of kids zooms right into the parking spot. So immediately, like, I'm hot, I'm angry, right? Beeping my horn. What are you doing? That's my spot. The kids come out and they're like, yo, chill, man. We're just gonna pull into the spot and drive out. And so it's like, all right, I feel good. You know, I'm chilling. And so I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and the car doesn't move. So I inch up, mind you, right? I'm still a pastor this time. I just started my third church in 10 years, like 9 months ago. I look out the window as these kids are scurrying out of the back of their car, and I cuss them out.
Bro, listen.
I'm like, yo, like I'm just stringing together these phrases, and I'm shocked. Not just that I cuss them out, I'm shocked by how fluent I am. Like I hadn't used it in a bit. Spanish goes if you don't use it. Here, it's like I just flung them words out. And right afterwards, I was so ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
So I called my wife. I called a couple of my best friends at the time, and I tell them.
Yeah.
And I'd just say, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And I thought they would like scold me. And they're like, oh, we know that you're not okay.
Uh-huh. Shout out friends.
No, for real.
We've just been waiting on you to say that you're not okay. And then at that first time, like I was forced to slow down. And as I slowed down, like I had a sabbatical from the church where it's like I couldn't hide my unhealth behind trying to make other people healthy, right? That's one of the hiding places for people's unhealth is they want to make everybody else in the world healthy.
Sure.
And so I had a month off, and I'm reading this book, Ecclesiastes. And the opening lines of the book, right? The words, right? Meaningless. Everything's meaningless. And for the first time, it's like, yo, somebody gets me. Somebody feels what I feel. But what was shocking was this. Like, I felt that way because I lost it all. But anybody that knows anything about that book knows that, no, the guy writing the book is writing it from on top of the mountain. Like, he has everything. And he said, meaningless, it's all that. And so that was the first time that it hit me. It was like, yo, maybe depression isn't circumstantial. And if depression isn't circumstantial, maybe hope isn't either. Maybe joy isn't either. Maybe nothing about the life that I know has to change, and everything can change. And that was the first time that I saw, it's like, yo, I'm filled with all this hope. Nothing about my life had changed. My brother is still gone. I'm in grief counseling. But for the first time, I felt like somebody had the words. And so that was when things started to change in my mind. Oh, maybe grief's not some like journey. People think of grief like a race, right? I ran cross country in high school. Sorry, I know I'm telling lots of stories. And we would have to run these like long distances.
Yeah.
And the worst thing was, some dude that could like run really, really well, he'd come up easy for him and he'd try to talk to you. And I'm like, fam, I'm out of breath. I don't want to talk. I just want to finish this race.
For sure, yeah.
I think a lot of us think of grief like a race. Nah, I don't want to talk about how I feel. I'm frustrated. I'm out of breath. Just let me run and reach the finish line of grief, and then I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I think what I learned is like, oh, no. There's not a finish line. And if there is no finish line, then maybe grief is more like a language than it is a race. Maybe there's a fluency that we have to get, right? Like what helped me most was not arriving to a place where I didn't miss my brother. It was not arriving to a place where certain songs don't make me cry at the drop of a dime. What made me feel a sense of hope was that, oh, snap, there's somebody else that's speaking the same language and they have the words.
That's amazing.
And so it was at that point, I'm like, yo, if we think of grief like a language, then maybe we spend our time, right, working on gaining fluency. That if I can help other people speak it in such a way, maybe there's a way that nothing about their lives have to change, but they can hold on to hope.
That's amazing. I mean, that's just so refreshing. I would love on the next segment to hear more about the book we go on, which I've read and it's been a blessing to me. But just thank you, man, for just dropping these amazing gems. This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 140. I'm here with Meah.
Listen, and we have John O right here with my co-host Ace Harris. We'll be right back here on the 116 Life. We're back here on the 116 Live here on Channel 140 on Sirius XM, Holy Culture Radio. Thank y'all for staying, rocking with us here on this episode. We got the one and only John O here, and you know we had Ace Harris with me as always here for another great show. Shout out to our producer Joe. We were having some dialogue off camera or off the mic, and he brought up a really good question that he wanted for you to dive into, talking about what led you to be able to get to that, diving into learning more, learn fluency, learn it when it comes to grief. But what prompted you to want to be able to share that with other people? Right. And then what did you learn along the way? How are you able to even stay up during all that? Can you dive into that for a little bit?
So one of the main things was, so I come across this book, Ecclesiastes, and the opening words of the joint grip me. And at this time, I'm still a pastor, right? So, week in and week out, and Ace, you've been a part of the church for a minute. What you do week in and week out is you end up taking a passage of scripture, something that you think that is true, and you have to work really, really hard on speaking it in such a way where hundreds of folks in the room look up at the end and they say, yo, I felt like you were talking to me. And it's like, how do you do that when you talk about grief and people are in there and they've lost their mom or dad 20 years ago or 20 minutes ago, right? Yeah. People that haven't lost anybody. So it was like, as I kind of start to talk through this book, one of the things about that book is it's like you realize one of the linchpins or threads of that book is that the shared human experience that we all have. Yeah. And it's not about faith. This is about being human. Nothing in life is everything that you think that it'll be.
1,000.
Yeah. The bottom always falls out.
Sure.
Right? I'm excited about marriage. You get married, and it's like, this is great. This ain't quite what I thought it would be, right? I'm excited about kids. I can't wait, for them to be cute and to hold them. We dealt with unexplained infertility for 16 years. We have a daughter 6 years ago. This is great. But it's not all that I thought it would be, right? And so it's like, when it comes to grief, the more that I started to talk about it, the more that I would hear folks say things like, yo, me too. I didn't lose a brother, but I felt that same way, right? They're like, yo, I lost my dad 13 years ago, but John, when you said grief doesn't have an expiration date, I felt that because 13 years later, I thought that I should be better, but I'm not. And the more that I talked, the more that I learned, oh, I think this is a shared human experience.
Right.
It's also an inevitability, right? So it's like when you talk to somebody and they say, yo, I don't know if I really relate to all the grief stuff because I haven't lost anybody. And I say, no. Yet. You haven't lost anybody yet.
Yeah.
It's coming. You cannot outrun it any more than a dog can outrun its tail. It's coming. And so it is this, I had a professor in school that used to say, education's like a time bomb that's set to go off at a later date. So everybody's going to feel it at some point in time. I think one of the biggest things that I learned as it relates to grief, and I credit Pauline Boss for this, if grief is a language, it has two different dialects. Tangible grief, that's the one that we all know of. I've got a loved one, they die, their body's dropped into the ground, tears fall from my eyes. They sprint down my cheek, chasing the fallen body into the ground. People that are around me, they look at my fallen tears, they look at the fallen body, they connect the dots and they say, oh, I can see why you're sad. And you're surrounded with hugs and handshakes and casseroles and all that type of thing.
Green bean casserole.
If that's your sort of thing, right?
Okay. Or mac and cheese.
Yeah. There's another dialect of grief that a bunch of people don't speak, and it's ambiguous grief. Ambiguous grief is this: the death of a dream, the death of a relationship, the death of a friendship, the death of a marriage, the diagnosis of a parent with dementia, where even though they are living, you talk about them in the past tense. And it does the same things to you physiologically. Your heart literally swells. Your tear ducts, right? Those gates are loose, and tears sprint down your cheeks. But people look around you and they say,
yeah,
but nobody died. I don't get why you're crying. And it's a grief that you have to bear alone because you don't have people to support you, because these are deaths with no funerals and funerals with no caskets. And so you've got tons of people out there that it's like, they thought they've just had a bad day for 13 years in a row. And it's like, no. You're grieving. But you're grieving by yourself. Like, do you know the feeling of like, and this took place with me. I was in Turkey this past year. I had an issue go on at the airport, and there was nobody around me that spoke English. And do you know the feeling of like, I've got a problem, I'm communicating as best I can, but nobody speaks my language. That's what it is. Like, there's a hopelessness that sets in, and that's what it is, where you're like, yo, I'm grieving ambiguously.
Yeah.
And I'm just calling out for help. But nobody speaks my language. And so you got people that are just hopeless.
Man, that's so, I mean, you said so much, John. And I think just brother to brother, man, I think what's so powerful about your awakening post Sam and walking to it, reading that Ecclesiastes, and you said it was sobering because you realized that everything is meaningless. And I wonder how many people would have a better understanding of life and faith if we just allowed ourselves to just acknowledge that disappointment is just it's literally inevitable.
Yeah.
It hits everybody.
Yeah.
Whether now, later, eventually, it's coming.
No.
And I think what you have said, you kind of got sobered.
Oh yeah.
From death.
Yeah.
And it gave you the language to speak to other people who are still kind of searching for, like, what does this mean? A death of a dream, a lost one, a loved one, a relationship. Yeah. And I think that's so helpful for you to just put that to words. Talk about, as you're discovering this language, what makes you like grow into even like packaging it and turning it into something that people, a tool, a resource. Like, because I mean, I lost my brother in first semester of college. Yeah. And obviously it was a traumatic experience, but something about death sobered me in a way where I was like, oh, this is life.
Oh.
This is life. Instantly, this is life. You can't plan for, predict for, you can't faith your way through it.
No.
It's like disappointment is inevitable and it's coming, you know?
Yeah. Francis Waller is going to say it like this. And what I love is that Francis is not going to treat grief as a journey, stages of grief, right? Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then you're done. Talks about these gates of grief. And the first gate that everybody has to walk through is grief is this. Grief is not an event. Grief is an invitation into an ongoing conversation. And the opening words of the conversation are this. Everything in this world that you love, you will lose. And it's like people like, oh,
nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody
wants to. You don't put that on a T-shirt and sell it on Black Friday, right? Nobody wants to hear that.
That's not making it to the Christian bookstore.
That's not a coffee mug, bro.
Don't put that in my stocking this year. I don't want that,
bro.
But it's true.
That is not. That is not a New York Times best-selling book, but it's true. But it's like that's not even meant to make you sad, right? It's like that's gravity, right? And it's when I'm teaching my daughter about gravity, I don't teach it to her to make her sad, right? She's, I've always got to come back to the ground, right? It's like, no. I teach it to you to make you sober and to keep you safe. Oh, if you're standing on the ledge of a building, no, sweetheart, gravity exists. I do not want you to plummet to despair. I want you to be more mindful of your present. That statement is gravity.
Yeah.
So it's this. It's meant to make you a better, more present version of yourself.
Amen.
It's meant to, when you're sitting at the crib, right, and this takes place with me often, my daughter, she'll be here, she'll hang out, and I'll be scrolling on IG. And my nose is buried in my phone. And whenever my nose is buried in my phone, grief just comes up, politely taps me on the shoulder and whispers in my ear, John, everything that you love, you will lose. Even her. So take your nose out of your phone and nestle it into her. Be more present. And it's like, oh, no. Like that experience with grief has just made me, a better father, right? I've got two amazing friends. They did the East Coast leg of the tour with us. Jordan and Jessica Rice in Harlem. Jordan and Jessica are both in their 40s. They celebrated 10 years of marriage, and it is their second marriage. Jessica, when she was 26 years old, 2.5 months into marriage, her husband got into a terrible motorcycle accident and died. Jordan was married, and 10 months into his marriage, his wife was diagnosed with an incurable, super rare form of cancer on her heart. It was so rare that the doctor told Jordan he had to Google it because he never heard of it before. And his wife died. So now you have these two people that are widowed in their 20s, but then they get married, celebrated 10 years. So we're at dinner. We're at dinner. And I just sat and I talked. I was like, yo, how did that change you? Like, I love y'all's friendship and y'all's marriage. And what he says is he's like, yo, JL, I never leave the house angry at her.
Wow.
If we ever get in a fight, no. I never leave the house without saying, I'm sorry and I love you. Like, why? Because I know that everything in this world I love, I will lose. And I legit, from experience, do not know if I'm going to see her again once I leave. So why would I let something dumb stand in between us? Actively, as he says that, me and Chandra are at dinner and right across from them. And me and her have been beefing over something stupid for days. Bro, it's like, oh, yo.
You know what?
But it's like, no, that's what
Sobering.
grief does.
Sticking that.
So for me, it was just like, no, this is medicine, right?
Yeah.
These are vitamins. This is a prescription that everybody needs. But the second that you start to talk about grief, folks are like, man, I ain't trying to be sad. I don't want to. So from my standpoint, it was just, all right, how do I hate vegetables.
I'll heard.
Say it right now. I'm 39 years old. I've got an African metabolism, so I really don't have to eat them, all right? But I hate them. And early on in our marriage, my wife used to sneak carrots into spaghetti sauce just to get me to eat it. She's like, I know that he needs this, and I want to make sure I package it in a way that he'll digest it. when it comes to grief, it's the same way. As soon as you say grief, folks are like, yo, I don't want to be sad. But I'm like, yo, this is medicine. This is the sobriety that comes from understanding gravity. So from that standpoint, it's like, all right, how do I package this in such a way where people have no clue what they're getting? And so that's what led to.
Amazing. I mean, you've got the book. The book is amazing. Yeah. It's been a blessing. I've shared it to I shared it to one of my best friends who lost his dad 3 years ago. Yeah. And he was struggling to understand how to make sense of all of that. Yeah. And that book, the We Go On book, was like a blessing because it gave him, it packaged grief. Not that you were trying to package it, but the way that it was communicated and delivered, it gave him a framework that he can like sit with and give himself the language to know how to deal with it. Yeah. Because there is no expiration date.
No.
Trauma, pain, life, disappointment, loss, everybody's going to feel it at some point. Yeah. So if we're just riding a wave of bliss, of happiness, and good moments, which we all celebrate, it's not to, I don't think you're trying to scare people.
No.
I think you're trying to help people see, let's lean into love stronger. Yeah. Because of what you love you may lose it.
Yeah. I was thinking the word grounded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you say ride the wave and you think that you like wave, of course it's up, it's down, but like you being able to create these safe spaces and these resources grounds people. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't imagine the numbness that comes with, with when it comes to the grieving in general. So to be able to be grounded and to feel, you know what I'm saying? Be present, like you said. And we're going to go into this next break. But when we come back, we're going to dive more into the conversation of the tour and just so on and so forth. And y'all, we have John O right here and we have Ace here. I'm here as well. And we're here in the 116 Life. We have more coming to you, so don't go anywhere. And we're back right here on the 116 Live here on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 140. Thank y'all for tuning in and rocking with us for this show. We have a great one. This one's loaded, Ace.
It's loaded.
It's loaded.
Oh, it's in there.
Because we got the one and only. We have John O here, man. We're talking about so many great things, man. This show has been so fulfilling and so wise beyond everything. I think it's the statement that you made earlier, tragedy doesn't ruin us, hopelessness does. Yeah. What brought you to that statement? I'm curious.
Yeah. I think the more that I started to talk about grief, I saw two different responses. I saw people who hadn't gone through it yet be like, oh, that's so insightful. I saw people in the middle of it that were like, yeah, I guess so, but like things are just so hard that it's hard for you to like ever believe it's gonna get better. And then I saw older people that had lots of like gray hair or no hair. And I saw the way that they smiled. And after I shared my story of grief, they started to talk about things that they went through. And I'm like, yo, the stuff that y'all have gone through have made my little journey look like a cakewalk.
Right.
And yo, y'all have gone through worse things than I have, but I never would have known because of the way that you're just so hopeful and optimistic and positive. And I realized, what makes for that type of disposition in a person isn't an easy life. It's a resolve that takes them through the more difficult things of life. And that's when it's like, if tragedy is inevitable and you've got certain people that live and they feel very like hopeful and their lives are full, and certain people who live as if their lives are empty, tragedy is not the definer of whether somebody has a good life or a bad life. Tragedy doesn't ruin anybody. Hopelessness does. So how do you hold on to hope? So yeah, seeing older people with smiles on their face was the thing that reminded me tragedy doesn't ruin anybody.
That's amazing. So obviously you a man of many things and have a coffee company, and you've talked about this before, but help people understand, how do you use your love for coffee as a metaphor to processing grief?
Yeah.
Because I've seen it and heard it, and it's very interesting. But I think it would be good for kind of share some of that.
Yeah. So it's really I got into coffee 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And I used to hate it until I realized what it was and where it came from. When I realized what it was and where it came from, I realized coffee was a lot more complex than I thought that it was. And I missed out on enjoying it because I didn't realize the complexity. And I thought grief was the same way. And so it's like, I just learned that like most people avoid processing their grief for the same reason they avoid drinking their coffee black, because black coffee is bitter. People know that it's bitter. So in an attempt to avoid the bitterness, what they do is they load it up with all types of cream, sugar, even though most of us are lactose intolerant, right?
I am.
Right. And at the end of the day, they imagine themselves successful. If I can distract my senses enough not to taste the bitterness of the coffee, then I've got a successful cup. And they drink and enjoy it. The problem is people don't know, like coffee is not a bean. Coffee is a fruit. It is the pit of a coffee cherry. This coffee cherry takes on the flavor of its soil. So it is complex. So you really do get notes of like blueberry and raspberry and, vanilla and all of that. But in order to get to that flavor, you've really got to lean into the bitterness. The flavor is a reward for those that lean into the bitterness. On the backside or on the B side, there are these subtle sweetnesses that you do not get if you try to distract yourselves. I just learned that grief is the same way. Most people find themselves in these distraction experiments where they load themselves up on the condiments of sex and accomplishments and substances and alcohol and achievements and all types of stuff, trying to just drown out the bitterness of grief. Right. And what they don't get is, no, grief is more complex than that. For everybody that'll lean into the bitterness of grief, they'll find these subtle sweetnesses that are on the back end. And so what I want to do is, like, in the same way with coffee, right, we'll pair black coffee with caramels, and people can take a bite of that, then drink that, and they can say, yo, I do taste sweetness that's in the coffee. With grief, it was the same thing. It's like, all right, I want to pair an exploration of grief with, a beautiful book, with amazing stories, with film that we create, with music, with comedy.
Yes, right? which doesn't seem like it makes sense.
It doesn't seem like it matches, in the same way that people don't think like, yo, all right, look, I can give you this coffee and you could drink it on your own and you could say, I don't taste anything. Or I could give you this coffee and an orange slice and say, no, taste the slice, now drink the coffee, and your whole world is broad. And it's like, yo, what? Who changed the flavor? Nobody changed the flavor. You're just accustomed to enjoy the complexity of it. So that was our goal behind, hey, let's put together these evenings that serve as like these like grief tastings of sorts, where people come in. And the common thing, right? We just got done. Last Thursday was, 13 cities, 27 days, hundreds of folks in each room. And everybody at the end of the night would say the same thing. I had no clue what to expect as I came in. And two, they said, I've never seen or experienced or been to anything like this, right? So people would get mad and say, I wish I would have known what it was, because we would have brought this many folks.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then at the end, it's like, all right, well, you've been. Tell me what it was. And folks are like, well, it was kind of and y'all like sang and did music and it was and I'm like, see, like you just have to come and experience, right? So
yeah, and I was there the We Go On tour, and it was definitely an experience. Obviously, well curated, well crafted. Yeah. And I think like the analogy you're giving about the fruit and the tasting, it is, because I mean there was the guy who did comedy there. Yeah. People are come to hear about grief and their loved ones. Yeah. And he's just roasting people and having a good time. Right. And it doesn't seemingly go, but I think it was very helpful. And talk about how like how did you like decide to create this event, these products, these resources? Like, because I don't know if I have another comparison.
There's nothing
in culture of this kind of language and tool. So talk about the uniqueness of what we go on book tour and even the music that comes with it.
So what I'll say is, like, once again, right, my mission in life is I want to bring beauty into the world by building the greatest teams on the planet. How I came up with all of this, it wasn't the how. I didn't sit in a room and come up with it by myself. It is the who. So it was like, all right, once I had an instinct that I wanted to do this, last year, so all right, let me bring in people who have a introductory fluency with grief. So I'm like, yo, I wrote this book. I really love movie soundtracks. The Best Man soundtrack is one of my favorite soundtracks. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? So it's like, the soul food soundtrack. So I love movie soundtracks. So it's like, man, why don't books have soundtracks? People may or may not reread the books. Like, I read a lot of books, but I don't reread a ton of books. But people replay music. I think the content was so beautiful that I need it to be replayed. So I talked to you. This is 2 years ago this month. We're sitting at full commission, and it's like, yo, Ace, I got this idea. What do you think? And you're like, yo, man, I think it could go. I talked to Swoop and Aaron Knight, and Swoop was like I gave Swoop the book, and this was, September 18th, 2020, Swoop lost his mom. So this is fresh off of the death of his mom. Rich Perez, August 8th, 2007, Rich lost his mom. And so as I talked to him about grief and loss, I found all these people that were fluent in grief. Yeah. And it's like, all right, I know, like, the words come out when I think, but visually I can't see it. Musically I can't. And Rich was like, yo, I like film is how I see the world. So Rich was like, yo, we can do this. And my first thought was, man, J. Cole did a documentary on the off season. I'd love to do a 12-minute joint on the book. And Rich traveled with me back home, back to Baylor, meeting my coaches, right, to Dallas to talk with Tripp, to things that I did. And at the end, Rich was like, yo, I actually think this is a 45-minute, 3-part mini doc on grief. So then we did that. Swoop, I was just like, yo, what are your thoughts? And then, he just started to pump out these incredible tracks. And I'm like, yo. And so it's like, yo, I think we may have something. So I just built this group of folks. And what I live by is this, man, like, get you a small group of geniuses, people that you respect their genius. Ask them if they would lend their genius to something that you all would create. And, from, Chandra, right, my wife, and it's like, yo, we did 5 cities last year, and I was managing the logistics of it all, and that mug was a train wreck, and could you and your group help? And she's like, yeah, she's a genius at what she does. Leslie Mack, she is, a genius at just the creative aspect. So the way that it all fit together. Kimberly Powell, who, all the visuals that she shot for the promo stuff, the stuff that we're going to work on the back. Dave Perdue and the stuff that he did on the back end. And so we just built this incredible team, and everybody came through and just lent their genius to this universe we were trying to create. And now on the back end of it, it's like, man, whenever you do that, you create a center of gravity that just pulls more and more people into orbit. And so for me, it's I may be the originator or the inventor or the brainchild, but it's like, no. All I did was get the ball rolling and bring folks into the room and just, I'm just a fan of what everybody does. It's like, yo, this is great, yo. It's
phenomenal, phenomenal.
Man, listen, John been winning from on and off the court, bringing teams together and then bringing people together. Man, I love it. When Ace told me that we were going to have you on the show, I was so excited just because I've been able to hear you speak and on different things, and I was excited for what people watching would be able to get out of it. With the 116 Life just being about just the lives we're living, you know what I'm saying? And I was thinking about the lives of people who would be watching, and we're in the holiday season, and there are some people that I even know personally that are looking forward to holiday season, genuinely, you know, because they lost someone close to them, or even not recently, but maybe even they haven't been able to enjoy it, you know what I'm saying, joyous season. And I felt like you were just the right person to be able to give guidance to people. Because I was going to say encouragement, but I just feel like sometimes people just want to get through, you know what I'm saying? Because you feel that so well. For those who are going into the holiday season who may have lost someone close recently or maybe a long time ago, what would you say to those to guide them through this time to be able to get through this holiday season?
Well, I love that you said like guide, right? You know, the first thing that I would say is like, especially for people of faith who so often feel rushed to being whole. It's okay to be sad. You've got permission to be sad. And God can still be good, right? God can still be good and I can be sad at the same time. Those truths aren't mutually exclusive. And if this is your first holiday season without your mom, without your brother, without your dad, without your spouse, whether by death or divorce or that, like, it's okay to be sad. And I just want folks to know, and I'm just going to look into all of the cameras. I've been avoiding it because I didn't know which one I was supposed to look into. So I hope that, okay. Yeah. All right. No, like your sadness honors the people that you lost, right? One day, as time goes on and as you get healthy, right? Not healed, but healthy, you're going to be able to focus more on what you loved than on what you lost. But losing somebody is so jarring that you honor their presence in your life by focusing on the loss. And anybody that would make you feel like you're an inconvenience for focusing on the loss is somebody that hasn't learned how to honor the thing that you loved, that you lost. So the main piece of guidance that I would say is that it's okay to be sad and to presently, right, feel what you feel. Right now. And find a safe place to be able to share it. One of the things that grief will do, though, is if your life was a restaurant, grief would make you feel as if it's right for them to have a standing reservation at every table and that joy can't sit down. And that's just not true. So it's feel what you feel and don't feel guilty about being sad. But in those times that you forget, right, that you're sad and you laugh, grief will remind you, like, you're not supposed to laugh. It's like that one Kanye GIF where he like laughing and then he sees the camera and he, grief makes you do that, like you laugh and it's like, oh, I'm grieving, I can't laugh. No. Like, feel what you feel. Joy or sorrow. Feel free to volley. It is a tennis match. Yeah. Just feel free to go back and forth in between with no explanation.
With no explanation. Feel what you feel.
Yes.
Amazing. I mean, that's well said. What you think, Meah?
No, listen, thank you. Genuinely thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I say that not even just us, but I've heard so many people speak so highly of you. And I can only imagine the people on tour, reading the book, have just encountered you just through life, who are grateful for you being able to give resources and be the safe space. Sure. Not even just give them, but just to be the safe space for them to be able to talk to. John, thank you so much for being on this week's show. Guys, we pray that you got something out of this. If you feel like this was for you, let us know. If you feel like you need to send this to someone, because we want to be able to not just give y'all entertainment, but to also be a resource, to be able to let you hear conversations to guide you in the 116 life that you're living. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's show. Man, listen, we got Ace Harris, as always, my co-host here, and also Meah Evans signing off this week here on the 116 Life. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace, y'all.